Good morning. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this morning's last lecture, our final Sacred Hour gathering of the semester. And it's really lovely to see so many people here. I know as people were coming in, we were all remarking about the stressful time of year this is. And I think perhaps nothing will serve us better than to catch our breath and take a moment to hear some wisdom from a treasured colleague. Dr. Brad Ellis is Assistant Professor of Modern Languages and Literatures and came to St. Norbert College in 2002, which where did 12 years go? I couldn't even believe that. He specializes in the literature and culture of early modern Spain. But that is not why we invited him. We invited Brad because we are well aware of his depth, of his gentle wisdom, and of the caring and character he consistently displays. And so without further ado, will you help me welcome Dr. Brad Ellis.
Well, thank you all for being here, and good morning. The moment has finally arrived. A lot of preparation and slides and everything else, and it's great to be here. I do hope that, well, first I want to thank Julie. She invited me last spring, I guess it was, the notion of last lecture is a little daunting. I hope that it's not my last lecture, because at 11 o'clock my Civ students have presentations, so I'm hoping to be able to see those. But you know, it really is a great honor, and honestly, to see everybody here in this room, you know, I didn't know how I'd feel, and I was in my office just earlier making some final adjustments and tweaks and things, and it's really great to see you all. It kind of makes it real, and I do feel a sense of real community and belonging here at St. Norbert, and actually right in this moment I'm looking out at all the staff, faculty, and students, and so many of you that I know. But it is a great honor to be called upon to do this. I do hope I can share a little bit of wisdom. This is always an interesting exercise because it takes me away from my literature a little bit and my teaching a little bit. But yet all of that is wrapped up in who I am, and I can't always separate those things. But this is a different type of exercise that forces one to pause and reflect and to think about where one has been and where one is right now, because we can only speak from our moment in the present, right, and our moment in a particular place and moment in time. So that's what I'm going to talk to you about, and sort of a topic that spoke to me and that I thought would be meaningful, because I do want to speak from the heart and from my experience, there is the term lecture in this, but this is sort of a personal reflection on my part. And I want to talk about place, as you can see, and actually as Julia was introducing me, I looked up and said, I hope I got that date right. Is today the 3rd? No, but it is, and I got the year right too. So, but that was the last slide I did. So, but I want to talk about place. And when I say place, we all think of a geographical or a physical place, right? This could be a country, a state, a city, or a town where we do live or where we have lived, right? It could be Grand Rapids, Michigan. It could be Minneapolis. It could be East Vassalboro, Maine. It could be Bangor, Maine. It could be Louisiana, what have you, right? But I think that place can also transcend the physical and actually become sacred. Yes, place can be a physical space, but it can also be a period or a moment of our lives that shapes us. A space or moment that allows us or pushes us or forces us to reflect, to discover, to grow. And it can also be a place or a moment or an experience that grounds us, that makes us feel grounded and connected. And a place or a moment where we can be ourselves, truly feel grounded and connected and confident and able to explore and discover and reflect. Place can awaken passion within us and inspire us long after we have left it. The places that really move us and that shape us remain inside of us and with us long after we have left them physically. Place can certainly challenge us and lead us out of our comfort zone, right? It could be an experience, it could be a moment, it could be more than just a moment. Could be a time of our lives. Could be a series of years. It could be a series of days, weeks, one day, one moment. But it can be a moment. It can be a time period that challenges us and leads us out of our comfort zone and sometimes might confuse us. But it can let us discover, too, and grow and evolve and learn about ourselves, and to discover new lands within ourselves, to discover new lands geographically, but also discover new lands within ourselves, or parts of ourselves that we didn't know existed or that were there. To really know a place and its relationship with us, though, I think we have to be countercultural. This type of an exercise forced me, at least, to really stop and think about what I wanted to say today, and to really reflect, and not just reflect for 5-10 minutes or one day, but a series of days, and to think about what places have been important to me and what place means to me. And we can all think about place as well, right? Individually, as you're listening to me, you can think about what places have been important, what experiences, what did you feel in those places. It might be on campus, it might be far away. It may be a place that you can't always return to, but it's with you, or a person that's with you, even when you're not with them physically. But nonetheless, in order to really reflect on place and to connect with place, we have to be countercultural. We live in a fast-moving world, as we all know, that with a fast-moving technological world, right? And technology connects us. My wife and I have jumped into the 21st century in about the last year or two. We have Apple TV, and we have MacBooks, and we have iPhones. You should be applauding, right? We're very modern. We're very modern, contemporary beings in our house, but we love technology, but technology can distract us, right? And it can prevent us from thinking deeply and reflecting and connecting to a moment or living in the moment, truly feeling it and experiencing it. And so I think sometimes we have to shut that off. We have to understand the limitations and distractions of technology as well. And that is truly countercultural, because that's very difficult to do at times. But it's important to know and feel the places that are sacred to us. Some we return to, like I said, others we may not return to, right? Or we might not for a long time, and then we may be able to go back. But nonetheless, they stay with us and they become us, right? When I think about my experiences and what I'm going to talk about here, and I have the time in front of me, 9 minutes have gone by already, I better get moving here. But I do have some slides of places to me that live in me, right? Because when I get to do this, I talk to my students about Don Quixote, or I talk about Spanish literature, or I talk about the Spanish language and culture and these things. But this is a little bit of a side that some people may know snippets of, but generally people probably don't know. But these are the places that I carry with me, because I think we're always carrying these experiences and places with us, okay? And so as I go through these, I'd like you to think about the places that are important to you. What places and what moments have shaped you and do you carry with you? So let's see here. Okay. So I actually, this is Kennebunkport, Maine, right? We think of the Bush compound and George H.W. Bush, but this is, for me, Kennebunk. I lived in Maine. I didn't live in Kennebunkport. I lived in a very small rural town in Maine, East Vassalboro, Maine, a town of about 1,500. So I grew up very rurally, very connected to the outdoors. My father was a hunter, a bird hunter, but also a lover of nature. And I have so many fond memories of walking with him in the woods and being with him and just playing outdoors, playing in the driveway, playing, building. I remember one summer my brother and I and friends, we built like a hut in some woods that we had to like actually go in and like with like, we thought they were machetes, but they were actually like, kitchen knives or something. And butter knives probably, right? Rusty butter knives. But we thought we were blazing a trail and exploring and discovering, and that's one of my fondest, happiest memories, Oftentimes we can't explain why, right? But I just remember doing that and all of us working together and actually building cutting down branches and constructing this little hut, right? And we've all had these little types of huts or things that we sort of created as at different points. But anyway, but also Maine, the idea of rural, of growing up very rural. And now I live in Green Bay and have lived in larger cities. And when I go to Spain, I visit large cities. But that ruralness still lives in me, and it's very important to me. And I wish I had more time, actually, to spend time in the woods and camping and those kinds of things. And that's something that I know I want to do more of. But also the teachers in the classroom. I went to a very small school, kindergarten through 3rd grade and then 4th to 8th grade, and very small classes. But my teachers, those are some of the most meaningful teachers that I've had in my life and that really cared for me and demonstrated caring, right? Those teachers that really shape us sometimes is that kindergarten teacher, that 1st grade teacher, that 3rd grade teacher. I remember Mike Black, my 3rd grade teacher. At first I was terrified of him. He was like the first male teacher I'd ever had, and for some reason I thought that, how am I going to do this? But ultimately I really grew to love him and love being in his classroom. So these are just a few images. So that was me in Kennebunkport. This is me in Orono, Maine. My brother works at the University of Maine in Orono, and every couple of years, I still feel a calling to go back to Maine. There's something in me that needs to go back there. And this is the Stillwater River in Orono, Maine, and just a shot that my wife took of me, just sort of contemplating. But the idea of reflection and connection, and obviously nature, very beautiful. Whoops. This is my brother and me in his house. So very important. We still have connection with family, my brother there. And here is his son, my nephew Tucker. As you can see, he's been working out regularly. And this was a few years ago, but my brother actually doesn't like to travel. And of course, my wife and I are world travelers, so to speak. We go to Spain and Costa Rica and different countries, off and on. But my brother doesn't like to travel, so we have to go to him. And I don't know, maybe that's sort of a message to me, sort of a divine message to reconnect with Maine. And I always love going out there and being with him and his family as well. And this is interesting. This is actually a photo of a schoolmate of mine from grade school in Maine, Kevin Labrie, who still lives in Maine. And we found each other via Facebook several years ago, reconnected, and got together. So the idea of going back to not just place but people sometimes, and through the miracle of modern technology, nonetheless. So sort of ironic, I guess, maybe what I said about technology earlier, but this was a very important connection for me. And now I want to talk about Spain. This is me and my good friend Iñaki Crespo Gil de Muro, who is a good friend and continues to be a good friend. We lived together when I studied abroad in Madrid for the year. And Spain is, and we still go back. We still go back. This is a photo from, I believe, 2012. Spain is where I discovered my passion and love for language, all right? And it's where I fell in love with the people, the culture, the way of life, the way of doing things, the way that time slows down a little bit, the way that relationships override the importance of time, the food, the wine, the smells, the exhaust from the buses and the traffic in Madrid, right? Sometimes I think, what is that smell that reminds me of Spain? Oh yeah, it's pollution, but nonetheless it's there, right? And I love it, and it takes me back. But Spain awakened in me my sense of adventure and discovery. And every time I go back, my wife and I go back to see our friends and same place or similar places to revisit those, but always we work in new places as well because I love that sense of adventure and discovery. Iñaki and I are friends to this day, so a constant connection, sort of always with me. This is my wife Diane and me with Iñaki again. This is actually in the same area there from 2 years earlier. This is a day shot, and this is sort of an area where we tend to meet together to have dinner and to hang out. Whoops, get this right? Okay, this I love. This is a photo that we took on our latest trip to Spain. It says, "La vida está hecha de pequeños momentos, cero euros." So life is made of small moments, and the price for that is €0, right? And amidst all the commercialism and whatnot, the Spanish have a great sense of humor, and I think this really spoke to me that life is made of small moments, and it's those small moments that we carry with us that are priceless and that can't carry a price tag. Okay, another place for me that's very important, so Maine, Spain, and then, I'm trying to rhyme something here, but anyway, my home, sometimes in the rain, maybe, I don't know, the rain in Spain, falls in Maine too, quite a bit, but anyway, this is, my home is very important, and our home, my wife Diane and I, we actually live in a very small home, and it's very manageable, right? We can vacuum it in about an hour. And, you know, it feels not like a beast. It feels very cozy and comfortable and intimate. And it's just such a great place for me at the end of the day, right, to always return to. And certain rooms in the house have meaning for me. And we've done a little bit of remodeling. And this is a picture of our kitchen, although I think this is actually our dining room with some of the furniture moved out from our kitchen because we remodeled our kitchen 2 years ago. And this was a huge undertaking, and it actually dragged out, right? They tell you it's going to be like a month, and it takes like 2.5 months. And so it's one thing if you have your bathroom remodeled and you have another bathroom to use, right? But your kitchen, you only have one kitchen. So this was sort of an interesting experience because it displaced us from our kitchen. And for 2.5 months, but when it was, and here's another shot of how it was before. Some of you have actually seen this, but here it is now, okay? And so here is the remodel. Applause? No? No? Thank you. But this is a space that's very important for my wife and me because first of all, it's us, right? It's a room that we designed, that we literally have left our mark on this house, but we wanted to do it now to experience it and live it. And it gives us a sense of connection at the end of the day, of cooking, of magic, of collaboration, of smells, and so it's just become a very important place, right? Not just Maine or Spain, but literally our kitchen in our house as well. And this is, my wife is an amazing cook and does paella sometimes. And so we bring Spain into our house and those smells and aromas as well. So emerging of places, kind of. But I also want to talk about community. And we live on Reed Street on the west side of Green Bay, near Green Bay West High School. And we are neighbors 8 houses down from us are Lori McDermott, professor of English at St. Norbert, and her husband Dave Peterson, and their daughter Lizzie. And so we have been connected to them even before we got to St. Norbert over email and things, and then have begun to do Sunday night dinners. And this has been going on for 10 or 12 years now, actually 12 years since I got to St. Norbert. And so every Sunday night we alternate houses, right? And so our houses have become sort of blended and have become one, and we probably see too much of each other. Sometimes we say, why did he say that, or why did she, right? But we really are like family. And this is me with Lizzie, with their daughter Lizzie and their cat Raindrop, Rainy, several years ago. Okay, this is Lizzie when she's quite young, and here she is now, roughly, with me, but this is in their kitchen. And so their house is a little bit of an extension of our house. And we've literally seen her grow up, and she's she's applying to colleges, and will be going to college. It's hard to believe. She was 5 years old when we got here. And so here is my wife and Lori McDermott, as all of you know. So this is out celebrating actually Diane's birthday at Angelina downtown, an Italian restaurant, but we do a lot together. And this is me with Dave, her husband, and it's sort of a interesting photo, I suppose, but Dave's leaning into the photo there, getting included, but you know, it would be a mistake for me not to mention them because they are like family and a very important place to us. I also want to talk about the classroom because the classroom is also a great, important place to me. And it's a place where, like when we do a talk like this, we prepare beforehand and we try to imagine, you know, what's going to work, what should I include and whatnot. We do that with a lesson plan. But it's really in the classroom where, as I have gotten older and have had more experience in the classroom, I've become wiser in the sense that a lot of the best things that happen in life aren't planned. And that's true for the classroom too. And it's very important to be spontaneous and allow things to happen in the classroom and to be in the moment with my students. As a language professor, it's important to listen to not just their questions, but to their opinions, to their views, and to work with those things in class as a moving, evolving moment, I think. When I'm teaching, I feel like it's a moving, evolving moment. And it's important to allow for that spontaneity and to allow the students to be a part of the conversation with me, a conversation that's always in movement. And this is a picture of my 301 class, which is Introduction to Spanish Literature from about 1000 to 1700. And at the end of the semester, they acted out skits. So one of the things that I love to see in my students is their personalities. And they're exploring their personalities and expressing their personalities through the language. And this captures sort of that moment where they dressed up and acted out different scenes from a short novel, actually, 17th century short novel that we had read. Okay, and actually we're going to leave it on that for just a second here, but I just wanted to mention also that another place that has become very important for me is yoga, actually doing yoga. And the experience of doing yoga really centers me, and it brings me into the moment. It forces me to pause and to think of the connections between mind, body, and spirit, all united. Yoga has taught me to focus, to help me to be present in the moment, to not feel anxiety like I used to, and to be able to listen and really feel and absorb the energy and appreciate the energy that is within us and around us. And because that energy is oftentimes very positive and transformative, right? And it's important that we feel it and can connect with it. Yoga is a sacred time for me as well. I consciously try to leave my life at the door, so to speak, and to focus in the moment when I'm there. Of course, things creep in, but it's an act in progress, and it helps me to think about the moment, the here and now, and not what I have to do in an hour. And our instructor is excellent, and she tells us one of the things that she says a lot of things that are very important, a lot of lightning bolts of wisdom, but one of the things she says is trust that wherever you are is where you are meant to be. Trust that wherever you are is where you are meant to be. That's very important because sometimes we don't like where we are. We say, why am I here? Why am I feeling this? But sometimes if we let that go, we can't get to the next place until we appreciate and understand and respect the moment that we're in. And so trust that wherever you are is where you are meant to be. So yoga has been very transformative and has really been a place, very important place for me. And I need to mention Don Quixote very briefly, right? Because this is my favorite novel, of course, but it's a novel that lives in me. It's a novel that I return to, that I read, not always daily, but weekly, monthly, yearly, and sometimes read certain chapters and episodes. Of course, it's 1,200 pages long in a modern edition today, and has some 126 chapters, but it's a novel of great wisdom and great understanding that Cervantes captured in this novel. And I think it helps us reflect on space. The novel was published in two parts, 1605 and 1615, so it's about 400 years old, but it's the interaction and dialogue between Don Quixote and Sancho, his faithful and loyal squire, is what really makes the novel, I think. They have nothing in common in terms of their social class or experiences initially, but in their journey throughout Spain seeking adventures, they inspire, teach, and transform one another, ultimately. And the novel opens with the narrator's words, curiously, en un lugar de la Mancha, de cuyo nombre no quiero acordarme. In a place of La Mancha, whose name I do not care to remember. Now, this is the most famous literary line written in the Spanish language, yet no mention of exact place. Cervantes does not tell us exactly where Don Quixote is from, where he lives or has lived and where he's been brought up. We know he's from a region of La Mancha in central Spain, but from what town? And interestingly, the 400th anniversary of the Quixote, a lot of towns actually tried to claim that he was from their town, and they they measured distances, and well, he traveled this far this day, and he went west, and they actually, it was quite hysterical, actually, but they wanted to lay claim to where he was from, and they, of course, couldn't do it, right? This is an enigma. But there's no exact mention of place. Clearly, his place must be important, right? His town. Yet Cervantes never tells us. Does he perhaps want us to reflect on what is place? What is its importance? What can it be? Throughout the novel, Don Quixote and Sancho are in constant movement and are constantly traveling. Journey becomes the novel, and the novel becomes journey. They begin to live in and through each other as they listen and learn from one another. They see the world through their own eyes and begin to see it through each other's eyes as well. Their place transcends the geographical or the physical and becomes their shared common experiences together. Their conversations, their differences, their disagreements, their laughter, their tears, their victories and defeats that connect them and unite them as one and make them inseparable. Finally, I got 2 more minutes here, so all right. But finally, and here actually, this is the first edition of the Quijote from 1605, and here we have Sancho and Don Quixote in their travels. But I wanted to finish with language's place, because language is very important, and it's hard to almost talk about it because it's been part of me for so long, the Spanish language. I started taking Spanish when I was 14, and I really don't know who I would be or how I would be without language, without Spanish, and then subsequently French and Portuguese, but language, right? The notion of language. And when I speak Spanish, whether it's with my friends in Spain or with colleagues here, my French colleagues, my French colleagues, sometimes Tom, right? And we speak Spanish occasionally. Okay, but just checking. But with my with my Spanish colleagues, and it's really a connection, because without consciously being aware of it, when we speak Spanish to each other, we are carrying with us and into each other all of our experiences in that culture, in that language. I think there's a lot there, and we're not aware of it, right? But if we stop and reflect on it, we are connected. We are bound together by this language, and it is something that we share and have in common. And it connects me with the people in Spain, with our friends that we return to, and makes them inseparable. And language is inseparable from me. So my parting wisdom, right? So I know this has been a little bit of a journey, right, through the places that are important to me. And we're at our time, but what I want to most impress upon you today, and first of all to say thank you for being here, because it has really been a pleasure to talk to you and to see you listening and your reactions and things. I really do appreciate it. But know your place, right? Know your place, know your places. And yes, we know them. You can think about places and experiences, right, that you carry with you, but remember them, acknowledge them, respect them, go back to them. You don't always have to go back geographically. You can go back and reflect and be with them spiritually, mentally, or intellectually. But it's very important that we remain connected to those places and that they remain within us and in dialogue with us. And that does take being countercultural and disconnecting and stopping and doing what we're doing right now, listening and thinking, right, and remembering and being present in the moment. Thank you.
As many of you who have been here before realize, outside of this room, there are refreshments available. If your schedule allows, we invite you to join us for some hospitality. And good luck with the remainder of the semester, students and faculty especially. And would you join me in one more time thanking Brad Ellis?